If you're new here, we are Whispers Between Pages. On this channel, we break down and summarize powerful books, from emotional love stories to gripping thrillers. If you love stories and want to discover your next favorite read, you're in the right place. Don't forget to subscribe and like the video to support the channel. Let's continue now. Imagine this. You're right there, in the middle of this high-stakes courtroom battle. The tension. You could cut it with a knife. Every move counts. Your client's future is right there on the line.
Yeah, totally focused.
Exactly. You're deep in the strategy, the objections, pure intellectual combat. But then you look across the aisle, and there they are. Your brilliant, infuriating, magnetic opponent is also the person you've been secretly, intensely involved with. So what happens? What happens when that professional rivalry just slams head-on into this undeniable chemistry, and then suddenly these deeper, much more painful secrets start bubbling up?
Oh, it's way more than just, professional versus personal. That's just the surface.
Right.
This story, it really gets into the complicated layers of family stuff, trust issues, big-time trust issues, and that whole messy journey of figuring yourself out. Every choice they make is loaded.
It sounds like a tightrope walk.
It really is. Careers, emotional futures, everything's at stake.
Yeah.
The book does a great job showing how our past baggage, dictates who we connect with, even when it's maybe the last person we think we should.
That sets it up perfectly. Today, we're diving deep into Lana Ferguson's novel, Overruled. And we've got some really fascinating bits, insights, character details pulled right from the pages. We're not just skimming, we're digging in.
Exactly. And our mission really is to unpack that main story, sure, but also the character arcs and these surprisingly deep themes, because it looks like a steamy enemies to lovers thing at first glance, right?
Totally.
But there's so much more underneath. We want to pull out those key insights, help you understand not just what's going on, but why it matters, why their struggles feel so real, so relatable.
Okay, let's jump in, because the dynamic between the main characters, Danny Pierce and Ezra Hart, right from the start, wow, that's where the fireworks begin. You've got these two absolute sharks, legally speaking.
Top-tier lawyers.
Yeah, clashing in court, but also tangled up in this messy, private thing, sometimes literally at the same time. It's like a dual battlefield.
That's spot on. So first, there's Danny Pierce. She comes across immediately as super sharp, really headstrong, just incredibly precise as a lawyer. Her ambition, it's not just ambition, it's like tied to her whole sense of self.
Her identity, almost.
Yeah. And you get this sense of her internal monologue, this need for control, even over her own reactions. In court, the book says she's quietly seething, biting her tongue, fighting the urge to look back at him, at Ezra, the owner of that deep, honeyed voice.
Oh, wow. So even his voice gets to her.
Right. It shows she's battling herself just as much as him.
And then there's Ezra Hart. Equally brilliant, equally frustrating, and let's face it, pretty damn charming opposing counsel.
Definitely. The book doesn't waste any time showing this intense, almost magnetic pull between them, even when they're supposed to be totally professional.
You feel it right away.
It's like this force that keeps pushing them together, even while their jobs demand they tear each other apart. It's compelling, but you also kind of feel Donnie's frustration,
Totally. And what's wild is how they try to manage it, this arrangement they have.
Right. Purely physically, no strings. That's the idea anyway.
Yeah.
And it exists despite their professional rivalry. Or maybe because of it.
Ooh, interesting point. Like the conflict fuels it.
Could be. But you see Donnie constantly wrestling with it, telling herself, this is the last time, or it will be the last time. It's like this little mantra.
Trying to convince herself more than him.
Exactly. She needs control. And Ezra, he represents chaos to her, this unpredictable thing she can't manage.
And the book gives us some great moments showing this push-pull, like the courtroom stuff.
Yeah, the banter.
Where Donnie says something standard like, objection, leading the witness, but you just know it's loaded with all this personal history between them.
Like an inside joke only they get.
Right. And then there's that elevator scene. Oh my God, so charged. Donnie finally snaps, you're a fucking asshole, and Ezra, smooth as ever, just comes back with, only mildly. That isn't what you said when you were screaming my... Ugh.
He knows exactly how to get under her skin.
Right then. When she's trying to be professional, it's brutal, but kind of brilliant writing.
And it goes deeper. The book calls him a lethal distraction for her. She literally thinks his stupid face and body are lethal distractions when it comes to remembering how much I dislike him.
Huh. That's honest.
She notices everything, the hair, the mouth, the eyes, the amazing bone structure, how his suits fit a little too well. his fingers stirring up wicked memories, even his cologne.
Okay, I get it. He's distracting.
Right. And she keeps telling herself, it's just sex, just scratching an itch. But then admits she scratched this particular itch more times than I'd like.
So she knows she's lying to herself.
Deep down, yeah. She's trying so hard to rationalize this connection she claims to hate, this thing that threatens her control.
And all of this personal drama, this intense back and forth, is playing out against this huge case, the Kasarabi divorce.
Massive stakes.
For Donnie, especially. Her promotion to junior partner, something she's worked her whole life for, basically depends on winning this case.
That's huge pressure.
Immense. So the professional stakes are sky high on top of everything else.
Exactly. So Donnie takes on Mrs. Casaraghi Bianca, who's divorcing her husband, Lorenzo, for cheating. That's the core legal fight.
And who's representing Lorenzo?
Ezra, of course.
Naturally.
Which means their jobs constantly force them together. In depositions, in court, everywhere.
Yeah.
And that forced proximity, it just keeps fueling the fire Donnie says she wants to put out.
It's like the universe conspiring against her plan.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Every meeting, every legal argument, it's all tangled up with their personal stuff.
Yeah.
The courtroom is basically a stage for both dramas.
So as you get deeper into Overruled, you start seeing, well, that's this initial antagonism, this sparky enemies to lovers thing. It's really just scratching the surface, right?
Oh, absolutely. It's the tip of the iceberg. There are these really complex, deep, often painful layers underneath both Donnie and Ezra. Their backstories are key.
We have to dig into their pasts to really get why they act the way they do.
Exactly. Let's start with Donnie. Her defenses, her walls, they're built on some pretty serious trust and vulnerability issues. The book links these directly to two major past events.
Okay, what are they?
First, there's her parents' divorce. But it wasn't just a divorce. It was what she calls the perfect divorce.
Meaning
They faked being happy for years, stayed together just for her sake. When she found out, she felt completely betrayed, like her whole childhood was a lie.
oh man, that's heavy.
And worse, she carries this misplaced guilt, feeling like she stole half their life from them by being the reason they stayed miserable.
Wow, no wonder she has trust issues. That's a fundamental betrayal.
Totally. It convinced her that even the best relationships are probably built on lies. She literally says, once you find out the life you knew was a lie, you stop believing in a lot of things.
So that explains the prickly exterior.
It's a wall, absolutely. It explains why she pushes Ezra away so hard, even when she's clearly drawn to him. She's terrified of being lied to, terrified of being hurt like that again. Vulnerability feels like danger.
And there was another thing, besides the parents.
Yeah, Grant, her college boyfriend.
What happened there?
He left her, took a job, basically chose his career over her. And for Donnie, that just cemented this awful belief that she wasn't enough, that no one would ever really choose her.
Doubling down on the abandonment fear.
Precisely. And it solidified her aversion to anything deep or meaningful. You see it when her mom brings him up, and she just shuts it down. I don't want to talk about Grant, Mom. She wants to just shove those memories away.
Avoidance as a coping mechanism.
Textbook. Her past taught her. Protect yourself, don't get close, don't risk vulnerability, which actually makes the initial arrangement with Ezra make a twisted kind of sense.
How so?
It felt safe, right? Physical connection without the emotional risks she fears so much. It was controlled. And Donnie needs control.
Okay, that clicks. Now, what about Ezra? His backstory sounds pretty intense, too.
Oh, it is. Maybe even more so. It's all tied up with the Hart family. Deep, dark scars there.
Yeah, you mentioned his father, Alexander.
Alexander Hart. Controlling, manipulative, emotionally abusive.
Yeah.
And crucially, not Ezra's biological father.
Whoa. Okay.
And then there's Eli, the brother. Cruel, vindictive. The whole family dynamic is described as unruly, just constant tension, emotional warfare. Ezra grew up in that.
That sounds suffocating.
It gets worse. The big secret is about Alexander not being his dad. His mom had an affair. When Alexander found out, he threatened her.
Threatened how?
He said if she ever left him, he'd take Eli, Ezra's younger brother, away from her. Use his money and power to make sure she never saw him again.
Oh my God. That's pure evil.
Right. So she was trapped, stuck in this miserable marriage for decades, with Alexander constantly twisting her guilt to keep her under his thumb. Ezra sees his mother as a prisoner in her own home.
That must have messed Ezra up completely. Carrying that knowledge, seeing his mom suffer.
Profoundly. Which leads us to his public persona, the charming heartbreak prince.
It's a mask.
Totally a mask. A facade hiding all that pain, that resentment, but also this incredibly deep loyalty to his mother. He hates guys like Olimier's, his client, because they remind him of Alexander.
But he still represents him.
He feels he has to. He says, unfortunately, I don't get the luxury of being choosy when it comes to my clients. No choice but to fall in line. He feels trapped by the family firm, by his father's control, by the whole situation. He's constantly betraying his own values.
That's fascinating. So his teasing Donnie, being kind of laid back, is that part of the act too?
It might be a coping mechanism, actually.
Yeah.
The book suggests he finds solace in her complete lack of expectations.
Because his family has nothing but expectations.
Exactly. He calls her lack of agenda a foreign concept. He says he's only ever known expectations, mostly the you'll never live up to kind. So maybe with Donnie, initially he could just breathe, be himself without judgment.
Like a safe harbor.
Yeah, in a sea of manipulation.
Okay, so we have Donnie's trust issues and fear of abandonment, and Ezra's deep family trauma and feeling trapped. And then there's Bianca, the client. Her story adds another layer, too.
Definitely. Bianca Casaraghi isn't just a plot device. She has her own vulnerabilities that make the legal fight much more complex emotional.
What do we learn about her?
Well, her marriage to Lorenzo started passionately, secretly, in Italy. They moved to the U.S. But the real heartbreak is their struggle with infertility. They couldn't have children. And that seems to be what ultimately drove them apart, leading to Lorenzo cheating. Donnie picks up on the palpable grief etched into her tone, sees the sadness behind Bianca's strong front. She's carrying this immense private sorrow.
Which makes Lorenzo's infidelity even crueler.
Exactly. And then there's this detail. Bianca filed for divorce once before, back in 1994, but withdrew it.
Why?
That's the key. It coincided with her trust fund taking a huge unexplained hit. Significant losses.
Okay, that sounds suspicious.
Very. And Ezra's team really, Alexander pulling the strings, digs this up later, they twist it to make Bianca look money hungry, like she cries wolf about infidelity just to get cash.
Using her past vulnerability against her. Vicious.
It's incredibly cruel, and it raises the stakes massively for Donnie. She promised Bianca she would not be made a fool. But now, not only is her client's financial future on the line, but her deepest personal pain, the infertility, the past manipulation, is about to be dragged out and twisted in public.
So for Donnie, it becomes personal, protecting Bianca's dignity.
Absolutely. It's not just about winning a case anymore. It's about shielding this woman, who probably reminds Donnie of her own hidden vulnerabilities from being publicly destroyed. It's a fight for justice, but also for empathy.
Wow. Okay, so all this backstory, all this tension, it all leads to the climax, right? The courtroom showdowns and the big reveal.
Exactly. Everything comes to a head. And it starts with what feels like Ezra's ultimate betrayal in court.
The deposition you mentioned.
That's the one. It's incredibly tense. Ezra, clearly acting on Alexander's orders, introduces those documents about Bianca's 1994 divorce filing and the trust fund losses.
The money-hungry angle?
Precisely. Implying she's a liar, a gold digger. It's a calculated, malicious move orchestrated by Alexander to discredit her completely.
And Donnie's reaction?
Pure fury. She feels like the wind knocked out of me. She confronts Ezra immediately afterward, just rips into him. How fucking dare you? When did you go through my notes, Ezra? Were you always planning to fuck me over?
Oof. Straight for the jugular, hitting all her past triggers.
Totally. She instantly assumes he used their connection, their intimacy, to betray her professionally. It confirms all her worst fears about trust in men.
How does Ezra react?
He's devastated, genuinely pained. He denies it instantly. I would never betray your trust like that. How could you even think that? Her accusation cuts deep because it echoes the manipulation and betrayal in his own family, the very thing he hates.
Being accused of being like his father.
Exactly. Especially by Donnie. It's an unbearable wound for him.
So that moment, that's the breaking point. Or a turning point.
A massive turning point. Donnie's trauma makes her leap to the worst conclusion. Ezra's pain makes her accusation hit incredibly hard. It's this raw clash of their deepest fears and insecurities right out in the open.
Threatening to just shatter whatever fragile thing they had.
Absolutely. It forces them both right up against their core issues.
But you said this betrayal, this awful moment, it actually kicks off something else.
Ironically, yes. While Donnie is reeling, her friends, Nate and Vera, they start digging into Lorenzo's mistress on their own.
The colleagues. Good backup.
The best. And what they find is huge. Game-changing.
What is it?
They discover the mistress lives with Anton Kinsley, Lorenzo's personal assistant. Okay, seems minor maybe.
Yeah.
But then they find out Anton Kinsley isn't his real name. He's actually Lorenzo's nephew. He legally changed his name.
Oh, why?
To hide assets. It reveals this whole conspiracy. Lorenzo wasn't just cheating. He was using his nephew, under a fake identity, to systematically hide money from Bianca during the divorce.
That's next-level deceit.
It's a complex financial fraud, and Nate and Vera uncovering it. That's the key.
So the minor characters saved the day.
In a way, yes. Their investigation gives Downey irrefutable proof of Lorenzo's scheme. But crucially, it also points directly at Alexander Hart.
How does it implicate Ezra's father?
Because during the court proceedings where this starts coming out, Alexander desperately tries to shut Lorenzo up, stop him from confessing. It becomes clear Alexander helped Lorenzo hide the money, likely falsified documents, the whole 9 yards.
Connecting the divorce case directly to Ezra's family nightmare.
Exactly. The professional and the personal just collide explosively. And that connection, that's what finally gives Ezra the leverage he needs to break free.
So this is Ezra's big moment, confronting Alexander.
This is it. Armed with this proof of his father's direct involvement in the fraud, Ezra finally confronts both Alexander and Lorenzo.
Must have been intense.
The book describes it as incredibly cathartic. Years of suppressed rage just boiling over.
What does he do?
He physically attacks Alexander, knocks him down. Alexander ends up crumpling to the floor, blood streaming from his nose.
Wow. A literal breaking point.
A very literal one.
Yeah.
And then he says the words he probably needed to say his whole life. I quit.
Quitting the firm, quitting his father.
Quitting all of it, the control, the manipulation, the legacy. It's complete liberation.
It was his next move.
He immediately goes to get his mother, walks into Alexander's house, and takes her out of there. Rescues her from being a prisoner like he always wanted to.
Finally freeing her, too.
It's this incredibly powerful act of defiance, of love, of breaking that cycle of abuse. He frees himself, and he frees her.
So that's huge for Ezra, a total reset.
It's everything. It's him finally breaking free from his past, from his father's shadow. It's not just changing jobs. It's reclaiming his soul, his morality, choosing his own path. Profound liberation for him and his mom.
Okay, so with Alexander dealt with, the truth out, what happens next? Resolution. Healing.
Yes. The novel moves into this really satisfying phase of healing and new beginnings, both for Danny and Ezra individually and, importantly, together.
How do they come back together after that huge fight, the accusation?
Danny goes to see Ezra after the court victory. And she doesn't just go to apologize. She brings him the evidence against Alexander, including a flash drive from Eli.
From his brother.
Yeah, Eli slipped it to her. A subtle olive branch, maybe? A sign that even within that messed up family, there might be a tiny crack of light.
That's significant.
It is. And their conversation is raw. Danny apologizes, really owns her accusation. She tells him, I know you wouldn't betray her trust.
And Ezra.
He's vulnerable, too. He tells her flat out, I would never hurt you, not on purpose.
Yeah.
And then the big one. You are worth staying for.
Wow. Not just, I love you, but you are worth fighting for.
Exactly. It changes everything. It's not casual anymore. It's a commitment. Built on honesty this time.
So their intimacy changes too.
Completely. It's not just sex anymore. It's filled with trust, emotional depth. Ezra actually says he wants to touch her and knows she'll still be there in the morning, that she's in it with me.
He wants permanence, connection, the antidote to both their pasts.
Precisely. Their relationship transforms from self-protection into mutual support. It shows how facing your past, talking about your fears, choosing to trust again, that's how real intimacy happens, healing together.
Does the healing extend to their families?
It does. Donnie has this really moving reconciliation with her mother. She finally understands her parents' sacrifices, realizes they gave her their lives, didn't steal them. It brings her enormous peace.
Letting go of that anger.
Yeah. And Ezra's mom, Jackie, she blossoms. The book describes her becoming lighter, happier, more independent. She tells Donnie she always envied strong women, and Donnie assures her, but you are too. Look at all you've survived.
That's beautiful. Freedom transforming her.
It really is. A direct result of Ezra's courage.
And professionally, what happens for them?
Donnie gets her promotion. Junior partner. Totally deserved after everything.
Yeah.
The real validation of her skill and hard work.
Yes. Good for her. And Ezra.
Well, he quit his father's firm, obviously. And the book hints strongly that he might join Donnie's firm.
Working together. On the same side this time.
Potentially. It signals a future built on shared values, respect, ethical practice, not manipulation.
Yeah.
Him choosing his own professional path, maybe alongside her.
So wrapping this all up, what's the big takeaway from this deep dive into Overruled?
I mean, it shows how Donnie and Ezra, despite carrying all this heavy trauma, all these trust issues, they find a way forward, not by ignoring the past, but by confronting it, by communicating, by choosing to believe in each other.
Building something new together.
Exactly. It's about personal growth, chosen family, helping each other break those damaging generational patterns. They literally promise to be stuck with each other forever. That's a powerful choice given where they started.
It really is. So the core message is, well, it goes way beyond just romance, doesn't it?
Absolutely. It digs into family trauma, why facing your past hurts is so crucial, and how truth and trust fundamentally reshape relationships. Sometimes the best love stories grow from the deepest wounds.
And their journey from that hostile, defensive place to this committed partnership, it's really about emotional liberation, right?
Completely. Liberation from the past, from fear. It shows that sometimes the person who pushes your buttons the most is also the one who sees you, helps you heal, helps you become who you're meant to be. It's a fascinating paradox.
So a final thought for you, our listener, to maybe chew on?
Yeah, think about this. If confronting these really buried family secrets, these personal truths, could lead to such profound freedom and connection for Donnie and Ezra, what hidden stories in your own life, if you acknowledge them, if you maybe spoke them out loud, what possibilities might that unlock for your future? How might facing those unseen burdens change your own relationships, your own sense of freedom?
And that's it. We've reached the end of today's podcast on this book. If you enjoyed it, leave a like and subscribe so you don't miss the next whisper between the pages. Let us know in the comments what you thought of this episode and share your opinion if you've read the book. And of course, feel free to suggest a book you'd like us to cover next. See you soon.